Right now, someone just like you walked through an airport gate, tired, bags in hand, thinking about getting home. And in 1 second, no warning, no explanation, a machine scanned their face, built a permanent file, and tied it to every document they have ever filed with the US government. They had no idea it happened. That file follows them for 75 years. If you hold a green card, a visa, or any non-citizen status in 2026, this has already happened to you. What is in that file could change everything. Stay with me. What I am about to tell you is not something you will hear from your employer, your landlord, or most immigration attorneys, because most of them do not know it yet. This is the difference between losing your status and keeping it. By the end of this, you will know what is inside that 75-year file, what the government built in Atlanta to go through it, and 5 steps you need to take before your next trip. Welcome back to Lawful Immigrant Shield. I am Monica. This channel exists for one reason, so you never walk into a government process blind. Every week the rules shift. Every week I translate those shifts into plain language so you can act, not react. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. In this environment, staying uninformed is a risk you cannot afford. Here is what is actually happening. For years, the system had gaps. Children under 14 were often exempt from biometrics. Long-term green card holders moved through ports of entry with less scrutiny. Certain visa categories got lighter review. The system was fragmented, and that fragmentation created breathing room for old errors on old applications to simply fade. That room is gone. On December 26, 2025, the Department of Homeland Security published a final rule that closed every one of those gaps. No exemptions for children, no lighter treatment for long-term residents, no shortcuts for any visa category. Every non-citizen is now subject to mandatory facial biometric capture every time they enter or leave the United States. The scan takes under a second. What it triggers lasts 75 years. Sit with that number for a moment. 75 years. The government chose it deliberately. It is their estimate of a full human lifespan. They are not verifying today's flight. They are building a record of your movements, your physical changes over decades, your travel patterns, and your consistency. Every time your face is scanned, the system asks one question. Does this person's story today match what they told us 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20? And here is the part that matters most. The system is not just looking forward, it is looking backward. Let me tell you about someone I will call David. David is not one person. He is a pattern I have seen across dozens of cases. He came on a student visa 12 years ago. 22 years old, nervous, filling out complicated forms in his second language. During his first interview, he made a small mistake. Maybe a previous address was slightly off. Maybe a relative's name was listed differently on 2 forms. The officer did not flag it. The visa was approved. David got his degree, built a career, got married, had kids, got his green card. More than a decade of lawful, productive life in America. Then in 2026, David walks through an airport. His face is scanned. Invisible to him, an AI pulls every document ever connected to his immigration file. His original application, interview notes, employment history, tax records, social media accounts, travel across 12 countries. The system cross-references everything in seconds. It finds the discrepancy from 12 years ago, the address that did not quite match, the relative's name spelled differently on 2 forms. An officer pulls David aside. He misses his connection. He spends 4 hours in a secondary inspection room answering for a mistake he made before he was old enough to fully understand the system he was entering. David kept his status that day. Not everyone does. This happens because of a facility most Americans have never heard of, the Atlanta Vetting Center. It is not a detention facility or a courthouse. It is a centralized data hub built for one purpose: to take every piece of immigration-related data the government has ever collected on every non-citizen and run it all together. Before this center existed, your data sat in separate systems, your visa application in one place, your CBP entry records in another, your tax filing somewhere else. Your social media accounts, collected during past visa screenings, in yet another database. No single officer had the time or tools to connect those dots. Atlanta connects them automatically, at scale, every day. What they are looking for is something they call original intent. When you first entered this country, you stated a purpose. You were coming to study, to work, to visit family. Original intent means the government now wants to verify, going backward, that your stated purpose was genuine and that your behavior since then has been consistent with it. If your digital footprint tells a different story from what you wrote on that first form, the system flags it. Your digital footprint is larger than you probably think. Social media posts, posts you deleted, check-ins, tagged locations, comments from people in your network, your phone's GPS history if it was ever captured, financial transactions reported to the IRS, wire transfers, property records from your home country if international data sharing agreements cover them, and the metadata from your travel, not just which countries you visited, but how long you stayed, how often you went, and whether those patterns match someone whose real life is in the United States. CBP officers at ports of entry now have expanded authority to request your phone during secondary inspection. This is not new, but the frequency has risen sharply in 2026. They can go through your WhatsApp, your email subject lines, your banking apps, your photo gallery. They are trained to look for what they call abandonment, signs that your true center of life has moved away from the U.S., a conversation about selling property abroad, a job offer from a foreign company, a message about enrolling your child in school in another country. Individually, these things may mean nothing. Together, they can be used to argue that you have abandoned your lawful permanent residency. That can cost you your green card without a full immigration court proceeding. I want to be direct with you about something. I know some of you are thinking, I have nothing to hide. I have done everything right. I followed every rule. Hear me clearly. This is not about guilt. It is about consistency. The system is not built to find criminals. It is built to find inconsistencies. And none of us, nobody who has navigated a complex immigration system over many years in a second language, has a perfectly clean paper trail. We all have small gaps, small errors, moments where what we wrote on a form does not perfectly match what we said somewhere else. In a forgiving system, those gaps disappear. In this system, they get flagged. So what do? I call it the SHIELD plan. 5 steps. Every non-citizen in America should take them now, before your next international trip, before your next USCIS appointment, before your next renewal. None of them are complicated. But they need to happen today. The first step is a complete document consistency audit. Go back through every immigration-related document you have ever filed. Your original visa applications, your I-485, your I-90, your N-400 if you filed one, tax returns for the past 7 years, employer letters, rental agreements. You are looking for anything that does not match, dates, addresses, name spellings, employers that show up on one document but not another. The Atlanta system looks for exactly these mismatches. Find them before it does, and be ready to explain them clearly if they come up. The second step is a FOIA request, and it needs to go out now. FOIA is the Freedom of Information Act. It gives every person in the United States, citizen or not, the legal right to request copies of their own government records. You want your full A file from USCIS, and your entry and exit records from CBP. Your A file has everything ever connected to your immigration case, including the handwritten notes officers made during your interviews, notes you have never seen, notes that may have flags in them that have been sitting in your file for years. You need to see what the government believes about you before you walk into any future interaction with them. Filing is free. It is legal. It is one of the most useful things you can do right now. The third step is what I call a residency anchor dossier. This is a physical and digital folder that proves your life is rooted in the United States. Federal tax transcript, a letter from your employer on official letterhead, your mortgage statement or long-term lease, your children's school enrollment records if you have kids, recent utility bills, health insurance cards, anything that shows your home, your family, your finances, and your daily life are here. Every time you travel internationally, this dossier goes with you, not as a last-minute backup, as a clear statement of who you are and where you live. The fourth step is knowing your rights at the port of entry, and I mean knowing them precisely. If you are stopped at secondary inspection, you have the right to stay silent beyond providing your basic identification. You do not have to answer questions about your personal relationships, your political views, your religion, or your social media. If an officer shows you a form called the I-407, listen carefully. The I-407 is a voluntary abandonment of lawful permanent resident status. Officers cannot force you to sign it. But in moments of stress and exhaustion, people sign things they should not sign. If that form appears, say this calmly. I do not consent to abandoning my status. I am requesting to speak with an immigration attorney. Then stop talking. Only an immigration judge, through a formal removal proceeding, can take your green card. Not a CBP officer, not an airport supervisor, an immigration judge. Know this, and do not sign anything until you have spoken to counsel. The fifth step is the most important one. If you are eligible to naturalize, apply now. Citizenship is the only status that is fully protected from everything I have described. Once you are a naturalized U.S. citizen, that 75-year file does not disappear, but it loses its grip on you. It cannot remove you from the country. It cannot block re-entry. It cannot threaten the life you have built here. The file becomes a historical record instead of something that can be used against you. If you have been a permanent resident for 5 years or 3 years if you are married to a U.S. citizen and you meet the other requirements, do not wait. The naturalization process takes time. Every month you delay is a month your status stays exposed in ways that citizenship would end. I want to close with something real. Many of you came here with nothing but ambition and a willingness to work. You built something here, a home, a career, a family, a community. I know the news right now can feel like the country you chose has stopped choosing you back. That feeling is valid. The scrutiny is real. The system has changed. It is okay to be unsettled by it. But fear without information leads nowhere useful. The people losing their status in 2026 are not people who did something wrong. They are people who were unprepared, who did not know about the 75-year file, who did not know about Atlanta, who did not know they could say no to a form at an airport. You now know all of that. You know what the file contains. You know how the system works. You know the 5 steps. And you know there is a path through this that does not require you to live in fear. It requires preparation. Do the audit. File the FOIA. Build the dossier. Know your rights. Pursue citizenship if you qualify. These are not complicated tasks. They are the tasks that determine whether you are protected or exposed when the system looks your way. If this helped you, share it with someone in your community who needs it. Leave a comment telling me which country you are traveling from and whether you have noticed more questioning at ports of entry. Your experiences help me track what is changing on the ground so I can get you accurate information faster. Subscribe to Lawful Immigrant Shield and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. I am Monica. I will be here every time the rules change. Stay informed. Stay prepared. Take care of yourselves and the people you love.